Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to the Sandwich of Coherency. So, let's just go ahead and jump right into this. This past week has had some very interesting things come to light. So recently, I don't know if you heard about this, but there's a block in Santa Monica that has had mail delivery suspended. Now, from what I found out about an update about it, it looks like packages will still be delivered, but not letter mail. And that's a little strange in itself, but either way, you still have a area in Santa Monica, California, that has had mail delivery suspended due to attacks and violence against the mail carriers. It's just getting really crazy. And it's interesting because there's no end to the amount of crazy stories of violence and theft coming out of California. Remember everything that you've witnessed from 2020 to 2021 till this year, 2022. Now, you might not see as much of this in the news or the picture media on the television lately, but it's still happening. It's just that the buzz about it has died off, and, I guess since this is midterm year, the light on what is happening in these Democrat-led cities has to be turned off for the moment, because we cannot have people understanding how bad the problems actually are. You see, the hope of the Democrat Party is that, people will vote them into power in places that they aren't, and those that are in power will stay in power. But in order to make that happen, we have to make sure that you don't actually know what's going on. And it's kind of ironic, and maybe it's not even ironic, but it's interesting to think that if you look at how the media has gone over these past couple of years, there's been no end to it. But oddly enough, once we hit election time, it seems to have gone away. And I get this funny feeling, no, it's not even a funny feeling anymore, because they're just going to ramp up what they're already doing. Mind you, the closer we get to November, the more everything is going to become about how everything is negative to minorities and specifically black people. I'll take bets on that. But I do have a clip for you about what is happening out in LA, or Santa Monica rather. Let's have a quick listen to that.
Good morning, Tony and Oroxia. Yes, it's a definitely concerning situation here on the 1300 block of 14th Street in Santa Monica, where residents say they have suspended mail service because of the fact that their mail carriers have been attacked or threatened or assaulted. And they say this has been going on for a few weeks now. Even one resident saying they saw mail strewn about the street because a man kicked over the cart and basically threatened the mail carrier with a golf club or some type of bat. So because of all this, the Postal Service here in Santa Monica sent a letter on April 7th last week saying that the mail service will be suspended for this area. About 200 families will be impacted because of this, because it's just not safe for their letter carriers to be out here delivering the mail. Now, of course, residents are concerned about this and wondering why they can't just apprehend the person involved in all this, making the threats. Obviously, the Postal Service, according to this letter that they issued to the residents, say that this isn't a decision they made lightly, but they cannot locate or apprehend the person involved in these threats. And so for the safety of the letter carriers, they had to make the decision to suspend mail service here.
Well, isn't that just interesting? I mean, there you have it. So that's one thing that's happening. And it might seem like, it's just in the 1400 block. It might seem like a small thing, but I feel if it starts with one domino. And I believe as mail carriers feel unsafe in other areas and Democrat-led cities. And I know it seems like I'm punching at them, like maybe I'm just singling them out, but not really. I mean, we're just talking about where it's happening. There's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of like, I'm sure you've heard about the situation with the libs of TikTok thing. And we're not going to get into the whole Taylor Lorenz and the doxing and all that, which is wrong in itself. It takes a really weak person. And, you know, I think it's very interesting that people really try and play stupid. You know, people putting out people's private information, you know, and it's weird because it's always the people who say that they don't want these things to happen to them. And when it happens to them, it's so evil and this and that. But they're the main ones that do it and call to have it done to people they don't like. But again, these are, like I said, these are the kind of people that sit on a pedestal, and it's rules for thee, but not for me. But that's not the part about the whole libs of TikTok thing I wanted to talk about. I'm not going to really get into that, but I just wanted to say I think it's interesting that the flack that they've received for their, I guess, their Twitter page and whatnot, and the content, it's really ridiculous that they would be getting backlash, because it's not like they're editing videos. It's not like they're attempting to, I guess, post commentary on any of these things. It's just an aggregation of TikToks of woke liberals. Think about it. Someone has gotten suspended and is getting backlash simply for playing videos of the things that the people who said them said. Like how, I mean, these people make these public videos of them saying these nonsensical things in these Twitter videos. They make them public because they want people to see them. But then when somebody points it out that somebody made these videos, they get all butthurt. Oh my gosh, how dare you expose me? Nobody exposed you. You exposed yourself. We just expanded what you wanted to do and let more people see it. Isn't that what you wanted? And it's interesting because they make these videos to talk about particular types of people. But when those particular types of people actually watch the videos that they wanted them to watch, they get upset about it. It doesn't make sense. But we're going to continue a little bit more with California. And I'm going to go back to January because this is still happening. And let's not forget about the train robberies. And I'm going to play a clip from, back in January from the Today. And it's just interesting because, the things that they say in this newscast is just absolutely ridiculous.
Train robberies have long been a Hollywood staple, but in 2022, they're still happening.
I see what everybody's seeing and asking myself, what the hell is going on? I mean, look like a third world country, these images.
These tracks near downtown Los Angeles covered in ransacked packages, including everything from electronics to high-end items.
It's awful. I mean, people are expecting to receive things that are never coming and paid money for this stuff.
Union Pacific says rail thefts in Los Angeles County have more than doubled over the past year, with a spike during the holiday season. October saw a 356% increase compared to the year before. It's estimated 40% of the nation's maritime imports come through Los Angeles ports. The billions of dollars in goods then delivered nationwide by train.
If thefts increase, so does the cost of transportation, so does the cost of manufacture, which impacts the consumer.
The railroad is responsible for policing the tracks. They say their agents are making arrests, but authorities aren't doing enough to prosecute. The LA District Attorney saying 55% of the cases they received this year have resulted in felony or misdemeanor charges. Adding Union Pacific does little to secure or lock trains and has significantly decreased law enforcement staffing. Union Pacific denies this, saying it has increased security in recent months. California's governor calling it the work of organized groups, pledging more money and resources to tackle the issue.
We're stepping things up. We're not sitting back, and we are not condoning what's happening here.
Another challenge for a supply chain already under strain.
Yeah. You are sitting back. I mean, you are condoning it, Gavin Newsom. You're a terrible governor. But should it be anything less from you be expected, or rather should anything more be expected from you? I think you were taught well by your aunt, Nancy Pelosi, in how to govern terribly. But yes, I think it is what you wanted. There was more than enough time to stop these things and prevent these things, but you didn't want to do that because would you say, oh, it's racist if we stop them? And look what happened. Look where it got us. These are the actions and consequences of a failed governor and his failed policies, to the point where areas of telling people don't come visit because the crime is so bad. Yes, Mr. Gavin Newsom, it's quite insulting to other governors to call you the governor, but one can only hope that you'll get replaced this time with somebody that's actually worthy of the office of the governorship, because you have proven that you are incapable of the position. It's not for you. Yeah, you should do something else. Maybe flip burgers. I don't know. That's just me. But let's steer away from that and talk about something very interesting. If you haven't heard, it seems as though a UK court has approved the extradition of Julian Assange to the United States. And it seems like now the Home Secretary Priti Patel will decide whether the UK court will approve that. But according to the article in Al Jazeera, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is a step closer to being extradited to the United States following an order by a United Kingdom court. With Assange, supporters gathered outside the Westminster Magistrates Court in London formally issued an order on Wednesday to extradite the Australian to the US to face spying charges for publishing a trove of classified information more than 10 years ago. And, you know, honestly, the thing about this is that what it really comes down to is the fact that the United States was up to some fuck shit. Let's be honest, they were doing some very, very corrupt things. And the citizens found out, and the reality is that the government's mad because the citizens found out. Oh my gosh, how dare people find out the terrible things we're doing abroad, the spying on the U.S. citizens, the rampant crime that the United States is involved in, the murders, assassinations. I mean, how dare you tell the public how we are wasting their money funding dictators and terrorist regimes? Jeez. I mean, why would you want people to know that in one country the U.S. is fighting terrorists, but in another country they're funding the same group because they are quote-unquote freedom fighters? The Taliban is your enemy in one country, but they're your friends in the other. Al-Qaeda is your friends in one country, but your enemies in another. Al-Shabaab is your enemy in one country and your friend in another. At one point, rebels that were trained on one side by the FBI and rebels that were trained by the CIA were actually fighting each other. That is how backwards it was. But no. We cannot let the citizens know that. Oh my gosh, Mr. Assange, you've been a bad boy and you need to be punished for that. So it continues. While The move brings Assange closer to facing charges. Facing the U.S. charges, his legal options have not yet been exhausted. His lawyers have 4 weeks to make submissions to Patel. If she approves the extradition, Assange can also try to challenge the decision by judicial review, in which a judge will examine the legitimacy of a public body's decision. I hope they don't extradite him. This will be a bad day for journalists. It will be a very bad day for journalists because this will set the precedent, and the United States will go after all journalists who expose their corruption. So let's just wait and see and hope that that is not the case. But we're heading into this weekend, and I'm pretty sure that there will be more interesting things, more gaps from the president. I guess we'll wait and see. But we'll put together something special for that. But I thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.